Very good morning, students. We are in this lecture. In this lecture, what I'm going to finally establish that this set of rationals denumerable, is a denumerable set, and in between we require an important result that union of two denumerable sets is again a denumerable set. Uh, First, you can try these exercises at home. That whenever you have a denumerable set and you have another a finite set, and combining a denumerable set with a finite set gives us another denumerable set. And another exercise that you can work on is that if you have a bijection from A to B, that means A and B are equivalent sets, then A is countably infinite if and only B is countably infinite. It's not. These are simple exercises that you can try. Now we coming to the required result that will help us to establish that this set of rational numbers is a denumerable set. Is the following theorem, which states that union of two denumerable sets is a denumerable set. And before I start this proof, there is a small application of this theorem, which establishes that this set of integers is a denumerable set. Why? Because set of integers can be written as a union of two denumerable sets. You can see this on one side. We have a set of non-negative integers, which is denumerable, of course, because it is equivalent to set of natural numbers. And similarly, the two sets are equivalent to each other. So since the one at the right hand side is denumerable, so is this set of negative integers is also denumerable, and from this theorem it follows that this set of integers is a denumerable set. So now let's first go to the proof of this theorem. And suppose we have two denumerable sets A and B, and they being a denumerable sets, they are equivalent to set of natural numbers, and so we will have bijections from A to N and another bijection G from B to N. And these are possible because B is equivalent to set of natural numbers, and A is also equivalent to set of natural numbers. Now we have two cases, whether A and B have something in common or they do not have anything in common. And the first case that we talk about is that when A and B are disjoint sets, they do not have anything common. In case of disjointness, we define a function f union G and defined on this set A union B, from this set A union B to the set of natural numbers, and this function is defined in the following way, that when you have this any element x in A union B, since A and B being disjoint sets, so x belongs to either in A or in B. And first, when x belongs to A, then f of x is already defined natural number. So we are going to give an image to this x under f union G to be 2 of f of x, so that it is an even number. And in case when x is an element of B, we define this f union of G of x is equal to twice of gx minus 1, so that you have this as an odd positive integer. And this will, at least defining in this way, will completely rule out the possibility of having kind of having not equal to this 2fx and 2gx minus 1, because at certain points we might have f of x equal to g of x, because at certain points we might have f and g, equality of f and g, and just to avoid that equality, just to get not to involve that equality here, we are defining this function in this way, so that for when x is in A, it is a even number, and when in B, it is a odd number. Then this function is easy to verify that this is a 1-1 function. Indeed, it's a bijection. But let me say it is a 1-1 function. How it is a 1-1 function? If you take two elements x and y, and suppose they are distinct elements, then you have the following possibilities. First, both elements are in A, and the second possibility is that both elements are in B, and the last possibility is that X may be in A or B. Let us take X to be in A and Y to be in B. These are the only possibilities. Other possibility is that Y in A and X in B. So that is similar to the possibility 3. So what happens with the possibility 1 when X and Y are elements of A? Then you have this function f being a 1 1 function. So f of x will not be equal to g of x. F of x will not be equal to f of y. If f(x) is not equal to fy, so twice of f of x cannot be equal to twice of f of y. That implies that f union g of x is not equal to f union of g y in this case. Similarly, in case of b, we will have this g, since g being a 1 1 function, will imply that g of x is not equal to g of y. G of x is not equal to g of y. Just a minute. Okay, g of x is not equal to g of y. If g of x is not equal to y, their twice cannot be equal to, and taking out 1 will also make them unequal. They are not going to equal, and this is the image of f union g, the function that we have defined, f union g of x and y. In this case also, you get this f union g to be 1 1. The final thing is that when x is in A and y is in B, but when you have x is in A, the image is an even number according to the definition of f union g, and when y is in B, it's an odd number. So one is even, image of x in this case is an even number, and image of y is in this case odd number, so they cannot be equal. So in all these situations, you have this function as a 1 1 function. So it is also a bijection. Why is a bijection? If you take any natural number, let us take any natural number n, then that natural number n is either even or odd. If it is even, suppose it is even, so it is even, then again m is a natural number, and you have f being a onto function, so there is an element x in A such that f of x is equal to m, and this implies that twice of f of x is equal to 2 of m. But according to x is in A, if x is in A, I will write here this x is in A. If x is in A, so x is in A union B also. So you have this thing is equal to now f union g of x. This is the image of union g. That means this natural number n has a pre-image. And likewise, using this surjectivity of this function g, we will establish that when this n is an even odd number, then you will have a pre-image in P. So this establishes that this is a bijection. If it is a bijection, this establishes that this A union B is equivalent to the set of natural numbers, and hence this is a denumerable set. This is also the case when A intersection B is empty. You don't have anything common. Next, let's look at the case when you don't have anything, when there is an intersection. These two sets are intersecting. Now you have this situation, A union B, and now let's take a set. This set, okay, I just vanished it. That's not the way. Okay, look at this part of this is B minus A. This is B minus A. Let this set be C. Let this be C. Then you see that the union of A union B, A union B is same as union of A union C, but A union C is a disjoint union now, because A and C has nothing in common, and this is a disjoint union. Now you have the two possibilities when C is finite and when C is infinite. Let's talk about first this infinite case when C is infinite. So it is C being a subset of B is a denominable. Then from case 1 it follows that A union C is a denominable. And the second possibility when C is a from this exercise denominable and a finite set, then to this case of then A is a denominable and C is a finite, then one is a other is finite set, and the union of denominable and a finite set is a denominable set. So in all these possibilities, A union B becomes a denominable set. So it's very clear here that now, so this completes the proof of this theorem, and using the theorem and the process, we can prove that this finite union of countable sets is a countable set. Let me tell you that let me induction you can apply, and I can tell you that finite union of countable sets is a countable set. How? Let us take first two countable sets, X union Y. Now since it is both are countable sets, so we have the following possibilities. X and Y are finite, both are finite, both sets are finite. And the other possibility that we have, X is finite and Y is infinite. And the third possibility is X and Y both are infinite. I'm not considering the case where Y is finite and X is similar. All the possibilities, let's see going to be countable or not. In the first case, you use the result that finite union of infinite sets is a finite set. So X union going to be a set. X union Y is a finite set in that case, and finite set is always Y is countable. In the next second possibility, when one is a finite set and another is a infinite set, but Y is a denominable. When it is a countable infinite set, so it is a denominable. So then it reduces to this again to the exercise of showing that union of a denominable and a finite set is a denominable. Then in that case, X union Y is going to be a denominable, and hence let me write it as a denominable, and hence it is a countable. And in the third case, is in third case you apply the theorem that we just proved, that union of denominable set is denominable, so it is going to be denominable. So in every possibility, X union Y is countable set. So in the case of two sets, the union of countable sets is countable. So let's look at the case when you have more than two sets. You have finitely many sets, but you have more than two, and then you apply the induction, and that means you just write first that for n equals to true, it is true. It is true. And by induction, you suppose that by induction, suppose it is true for any k greater than equal to 2. Okay, any k greater than equal to mean you have x1, x2, so on up to x. Let us take you have up to n number of sets, and we suppose that it is true for any k greater than equal to 2. That means n equals to k tak ye true hai. Now we will show that it is it also holds for k plus 1, and in case of k plus 1, the union is the union in k the union in case of k plus 1 sets, x1 union x2 union, I can write this union as xk union xk plus 1. By induction hypothesis, the set in the bracket is a denominable set. Let me denote this set by y. Let me denote this set by y. It is a y, sorry, not denominable, it is a countable. So y union x k plus 1. Now it is a union of two sets and y is a countable, xk plus 1 is countable. This is a countable union of two sets, and I have already shown this for n equals to 2 case that union of two countable sets is a countable, hence this set is countable. So this uses this induction hypothesis to establish that union finite sets is a countable set. But the important thing that requires here, proof that detailed proof requires, is the case when you have this union of two denominable sets and you have to try the exercise where you have one denominable and another set is a finite set. So now let's move towards proving this set of Q as a denominable set. But before that, let's try to establish that this Cartesian product of n, the set of natural numbers with itself, is a denominable set. And to show that it is a denominable, I'm going to establish that there is a 1 inject. There is an injection from set of n cross n to n, and the function is defined in this way. Here, instead of 2 and 3, you can take any two distinct prime numbers, p and q, where p and q need not be equal, but they need to be prime numbers. And if you want to show that whether they are whether exactly this function is 1 1 or not, let's take two elements ij, and let's take another element lm, and we suppose that their images are equal. Then we have to show that the elements are also equal. Images equal means 2 to power I, 3 to power j is equal to 2 to power L into 3 to power j. This further implies that since 2 to power I and 3 to power j, and on the right hand side also all the numbers are non-zero, I can divide with the uh, factors. I will divide 3 to power m, and right hand side I will divide it with 2 to power I, and then we get 3 to power j minus m is equal to 2 to power L minus I. Now you see on the right hand and left hand both the numbers. One number is this on the left hand side, you see this number is it's only prime if it is more than 1. If it is greater than 1, then the only prime factors of this number are 3, and whereas on the right hand side, if this number is greater than 1, the only prime factors of this number are 2. So we do not have any natural number, we do not have any such natural numbers कि एक नंबर के सिर्फ और सिर्फ प्राइम फैक्टर्स 3 होंगे, दूसरे के सिर्फ 2 होंगे और वो इक्वालिटी पॉसिबल है. ये इनकी इक्वालिटी पॉसिबल ही नहीं है. अगर ये दोनों ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू 1 है तो इनकी इक्वालिटी तब भी पॉसिबल है जब ये दोनों इक्वल टू 1 है. तो इक्वल टू 1 होने का मतलब है इनकी पावर 0 हो जाएंगी. तो पावर 0 होने का मतलब है j इक्वल टू m हो जाएगा, l इक्वल्स टू i हो जाएगा. अगर ये हो जाएगा तो आपके पास i j जो वो टपल है, पेयर है इंटीजर्स का, ये इक्वल हो जाएगा l m के, एंड इन दिस वे दिस फंक्शन इज 1 1. तो अगर ये 1 1 हो जाता है, ये इंजेक्शन हो जाता है, तो फिर आपके पास सेट ऑफ n क्रॉस n जो है इट बिकम्स इक्विवेलेंट टू इट्स रेंज, बट इट्स रेंज इज a subset of natural numbers. But also you know that this n cross n is an infinite set, so its range, the range of f is also going to be infinite, and this is an infinite subset of this denumerable set n, and hence this is a denumerable set because the infinite subset of a denumerable set is denumerable. So this establishes that this n cross n product of natural n with itself is a denumerable set. Now let us use this fact to establish that this Q, the rational number set of rational numbers, is a denumerable. If we denote Q plus the set of positive rational numbers, Q minus the set of negative rational numbers, then I can decompose this set Q of rational numbers as set of negative numbers union 0 union set of positive rational numbers. And then it is clear, it is clear that this Q plus is equivalent to Q minus. You can define this function in P by Q 2 minus p by q. This is going to be a bijection, and this will prove that these two sets of positive rationals and negative rationals are equivalent to each other. And if a set of positive rationals is denumerable, then it will follow that the set of negative rationals is also a denumerable set. And then their union will also become a denumerable set. Q minus and Q plus union will be denumerable, and the singleton zero is a finite set, and adding finite set with the denumerable set gives again a denumerable set. So the result to establish that this Q is a denumerable set reduces to proving that one of the set Q plus or Q minus is a denumerable set. So here is a function which establishes that this Q plus is a denumerable set. How you're going to show? You define a function from Q plus to n cross n, and it establishes that this is the function p upon q to pq, because p and q both are, since p by q is a positive, we take p and q both to be positive natural numbers, positive integers, and this pair pq belongs to then n cross n. This is a very easy exercise to verify that this function is a 1-1 function. Once it is a 1-1 function, then again, as we reasoned last in the last exercise, we see that this q plus is equivalent to an infinite subset of n cross n. But we, in the last exercise, we established that this n cross n is a denumerable, and hence its infinite subset is also a denumerable set, and this proves that this q plus is also a denumerable set, and this establishes the fact that this set of rational numbers is a denumerable set. Is it clear? Yes. And the last thing that you can try, you just require 2 to 3 lines to establish this thing, that this set of irrational numbers is a uncountable set, because you prove it by contradiction. You suppose that this is countable, suppose that it is countable हो जाएगा आपके पास, तो you know that union of countable sets, आपके पास q ऑलरेडी काउंटेबल हो जाएगा, क्योंकि डिनोमिनेबल है तो काउंटेबल होगा, तो यूनियन भी काउंटेबल हो जाएगा. बट r माइनस क्यू यूनियन q आपके पास सेट ऑफ रियल नंबर से जो हमने ऑलरेडी एस्टेब्लिश किया है कि वो अनकाउंटेबल है. दिस विल गिव यू अ कंट्राडिक्शन, अगर ये भी काउंटेबल हो जाता है. तो हेंस यू हैव टू accept that this r minus q, the set of irrationals, is a uncountable set. Is it okay? Any one of you, if you have any query, you can ask.